Hey everyone, it's Linnea for LDRS Creative. We are going to be looking at the Everyday Iris Shutter Kit exclusive to HSN. I'm going to take you through the kit contents and then I'm going to show you how to put together a card. So to start off, the Everyday Iris Shutter Kit has everything that you need to make 15 cards, including 15 A2 card bases and envelopes. Then there are also 15 card toppers, these pattern papers. So there's a total of 15, 3 each of 5 really pretty designs. These are simple patterns, so they're going to go well with any of the iris shutters that you want to make. Then you're also going to get 18 scene toppers. So even though there's 15 card bases here, you can actually make more than 15 cards using these scene toppers. There are 3 each of 3 different houses. Some of them are, like your regular houses with the stairs, and then there's this one with a birdhouse that's really, really cute. So 3 different variations, and you'll get 3 each. Then there are these wreath toppers, and you'll get 3 each, again, of 3 designs. The flowers are the same. Well, I should say the arrangement is the same, but the flower colors are different, and the background color is different on each of them. So there are 3 designs, and you will get 3 each of these. So with the 3 houses and the 3 wreaths, you'll end up with 18 card toppers. Then there are also lots of ephemera pieces. There are 3 each of these, and look at how adorable these are. I love the little bee and the ladybug and the cat. Those are my favorites. Next up, you're going to have sentiments. You will forever be my always. You make my days brighter. Then there's thanks for bringing joy to my life, which is a really great everyday sentiment. Wishing you a happy day. And then lastly, there's sending a little love your way. So really all of these are great for anyone on your card sending list. Then of course you're going to get the dies that you're going to use to create your shutter mechanism. So let's go ahead and get started by creating that mechanism. Here are all the pieces you need to make the iris shutter. You're going to need 3 of the little, I call them record pieces. They look like the little discs, and you can cut them from any color cardstock you want. They are not going to show at all, but you do need 3 of them. So I cut them from heavy white cardstock just so they'd be sturdy. Then you need 3 support tabs. Again, these are not going to be seen, so die cut them from whatever you want. I again used heavy white cardstock just to make sure that they were going to hold my mechanism together. Now these little kidney beans, these are actually your shutter pieces. These will be seen. So this is going to be cut from whatever color cardstock, pattern paper, or specialty paper that you want to show. Then you also need the little handle pull tab, and that will also show, so make sure that you're cutting those from whatever cardstock you want to show. The other pieces don't matter. You're not going to see them. They're going to be the background pieces. Let's go ahead and start building this shutter mechanism. I'm starting with one of my little record pieces, and I'm going to start with these curved rectangle holes. And you're going to see on my little kidney bean pieces here, there's a little tab that you can push in and then kind of wiggle that around, and you're going to see the curve of the kidney bean perfectly fits within both the outer and inner curves of the little record piece. There are 3 of those curved die cut out pieces in that record piece and 3 little kidney beans. So you're just going to hook and slide each of those pieces into each of those rectangles. This is a really easy step, but it's kind of the basis for getting your mechanism started. Now you're going to see that in each of these little kidney bean pieces, there are die cut tabs that are cut when you cut out the die. It already kind of cuts and scores these. You're just going to pop them up and lift. Now ideally I would do this before I put the kidney bean pieces into the record piece, but I wanted to show you while everything was flat how it all lines up. So I'm just going to remove my little kidney beans here and pop up all of those tabs on all 3 pieces. Really doesn't matter in what order you do this as long as you have the 3 kidney bean pieces in that record piece with the tabs pushed up. So I'm going to go ahead and replace all of those, and then I'm going to grab a second record piece. This time we're going to be looking at the little circle cutouts. Those little pieces, the tabs that we pushed up on the kidney beans, those are going to poke up through each of those little circles. So I'm pinching those tabs to make sure that they are sticking up. Then I'm going to hold things in place and just push those tabs up through the bottom of one of those circles. Now it's going to be a snug fit, not super tight. It will go in easily, but these are the pieces that are going to secure your iris mechanism in place. So it shouldn't be super loose. You're just going to poke them up through. And I'm just kind of using my hands to make sure everything's aligned and just push them through. And once all of those tab pieces are pushed through, I will flatten them down, and you'll see that that is going to secure the shutter pieces in between. We've created a shutter record sandwich. And here's where, if you've done everything correctly, if you followed along so far, all of these pieces, even though they are secured with those tabs, they are still going to be free moving. So if you hold just that bottom record, that top one will twist and slide, and you're going to see those shutter kidney bean pieces all come together and then all pull apart. So this should be all free moving, and this is something that I do every single time I make one of these iris shutter mechanisms. I make sure that before I move on to the next steps, everything is moving perfectly and that I haven't made a mistake along the way, because now we're going to start adding some more support pieces to kind of hold this together. So I flipped this mechanism over to the back, and you're going to see there are some stitched rectangles cut into the back of this mechanism. Here's where the support pieces come into place. There are 2 score lines close together in the middle-ish of each of these supports, and I'm going to fold on each of them, and that's going to create a little book. So that little spine there, you do want that extra space. It shouldn't be a flat fold. It should be kind of like a V fold, but with a flat bottom, because you want that extra space there to wrap around the iris shutter mechanism. You'll see that in just a minute once we started hearing these. But I'm going to go ahead and fold on both score lines on all 3 of these support pieces, and then just set them aside just for a moment. Now I'm going to go back to my iris shutter mechanism, and I'm going to turn it over to the back. And I have some LDRS Creative craft glue. I just have it in a super fine tip bottle. And I'm going to add a little bit of my liquid adhesive. You could use a strong double-sided adhesive if you want, but I'm going to add adhesive in between those little rectangle stitched outlines. Now you're going to see here that these support tabs have a side that's slightly shorter and a side that's slightly longer. It does not matter which side you adhere to the back here. I went with the shorter side this time, but you could go with the longer side if you want to. The main part is that you want that first score line to butt up to the bottom of that shutter mechanism. Here's where that kind of book spine fold comes into play, because you want that first score line to butt up against the bottom record and that second score line to butt up against the top one. That's creating that book that is binding around the entire iris shutter mechanism. So I'm adding adhesive to all 3 of those supports. Do not glue them down yet on the top. You only want them adhered to the back piece. Remember that this top record piece needs to be free moving in order for the shutter to work. Now we're going to work on this blue pull tab. You're going to see, if you flip this mechanism over back to the front, there is a square-ish stitched outline here. There is one of those rectangles cut out from the center, so when you add adhesive for your pull tab, you want to make sure you're adding adhesive only onto the record piece. You don't want this pull tab to adhere down to the shutter mechanism below. So I again used my fine tip glue bottle and just added adhesive where the white portion of my record piece is. Now we're going to grab that third record piece and we're going to place this on top. You want to make sure that this top record piece is lined up with the second record piece, the middle one. So I'm going to just turn this until I can see those peek through areas are lined up appropriately. Now this is where we are going to adhere our supports down. So I'm going back to my liquid adhesive and adding adhesive to the tops of all 3 of these little support beams. Then I'm going to place that third record right on top, lining it up so that it lines up with those little kind of curved rectangle cutouts. And then I'm just going to fold those support beams over and adhere it to that top record piece. You don't want this to be a super tight fit. Remember that there's those two score lines, so you want that topmost score line to be butted up against the edge, but you want the pieces below, that second iris shutter piece, the record, should be able to freely move back and forth. Once I have everything adhered, I am again going to hold on to just that bottom record piece and pull the pull tab up and down to make sure things are working and I haven't made a mistake. If everything is moving properly, then congratulations, you have made your iris shutter mechanism. That was the hardest part. Now it's time to just put it on the card and decorate with the ephemera. So I have a card base and all of my other elements. I also wanted to point out that in this die set, there are these toppers for your pull tab so that you can add extra dimension to your handle. Now, if you take this regular curved one, you're just going to be able to slip that right in and it lines up just perfectly. And you can see that that kind of just makes that arrow pop so that somebody knows to pull down. But the card topper that I'm using has a straight edge, so I'm going to use the top portion of the handle that has that straight edge. And all you're going to do is just kind of turn it, and you're going to see it still has that half circle, but then there's the straight edge. So now when I line it up onto here, you're going to see, and I put this iris behind, I'm going to be able to line that up just like so. It does require just a little bit of trimming to cut off the extra part of that blue handle, but that doesn't bother me at all. I like having that cohesive edge on my card. Now I've gone ahead and chosen one of the circle pieces that I want to be behind my iris shutter, but I find it easiest to add the sentiment last. So stick with me while we do this here. I know that I want my iris shutter to be perfectly lined up behind that hole in the birdhouse. So to do that and to make sure that the pull tab is in the correct place, I need to make sure that my iris mechanism is in the closed position when I'm putting this card together. If you have it in the open position, your handle is going to be in the wrong spot. If I was to adhere it open, my handle was going to end up being somewhere in left field and not in the right place. So I have it closed, and I'm going to add adhesive now on top of these support beams, but then I'm also going to add just a little bit here and there, being careful to avoid those cut open edges in that little record piece. Then I'm just going to make sure that I'm in the closed position, and I'm going to line up the handle with that cutout on the right side of my card topper, and lining up the center of my iris shutter mechanism right behind that little die cut circle hole in my card topper. Then I'm going to give that a second to adhere. Now, if you want to keep things flat, like I did, so that it was easier to go through the mail, you could add liquid adhesive. Or if you really want to add some dimension, foam adhesive works great as well. Just again, make sure that you're only adding foam adhesive into the areas that don't have cutouts on that topmost record piece. Here's where I'm going to add my little topper onto my handle. I added some adhesive behind the white portion, again avoiding that arrow cutout, and then I glued that down onto the blue handle, and then I just used my scissors and I'll trim away any blue that's hanging out when I pull the pull tab down. You could leave it, it's perfectly fine to be left, but I just wanted to make sure that things were nice and crisp and even, so I cut mine off. Again, here I am testing my shutter. Every step of the way, I'm testing to make sure things are working. Now I have to adhere my card topper to my card base. And here's a quick tip. I am using double thick foam tape so that I can make sure that my foam is thicker than my iris shutter mechanism. I want that mechanism to be able to move freely. Also, when you're adding your adhesive onto the card topper, you need to make sure that that foam tape is not going to interfere with the moving handle. So I'm making sure that as I'm adding my foam tape, I'm moving that handle back and forth, and I am going to be adding adhesive anywhere where that handle doesn't hit. So definitely at the top and the bottom, but then I'm also going to add some extra support here and there wherever I can. Now I'm going to line this up with my card base, and I do want to mention here that there is a die in the iris shutter die set where you can cut out a little half circle. So see how when I pull my handle down, you can see the white of the card base? You can leave it like that. As you can see, the shutter mechanism works just fine. But if you wanted to cut that half circle out of your card base, you could with the die that's in the kit. Now here's where I said I find it easiest to add my sentiment last. I have my iris shutter mechanism already assembled. All I have to do is open it up and just add some adhesive behind my sentiment and pop that right down in. And now I don't have to worry about aligning anything perfectly because my card is already set, it's already assembled. All I have to do is just pop that circle down right in the middle. So that is probably my biggest tip for these cards, is wait to add your reveal element until last. I just found that to be easiest. So here I'm just going to play around and make sure that that iris shutter mechanism is working properly. Then I have some ephemera from the kit, and I'm going to add it here and there, pop those little critters up, and this card is finished. So here it is, it's all done. I added my elements with some foam tape, and I'm going to pull that handle down, and you can see it reveals that fun message on the inside. These cards are absolutely amazing for anyone on your list. And I do want to encourage you, in just a moment I'm going to show you, I added some glossy accents as well as some glitter accents to the center of my flowers. So although this card is perfect just the way it is, don't forget to go into your stash and pull out some gems and maybe some ribbons here and there to step up your cards a little bit more. That's it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the Everyday Iris Shutter card kit as much as I do. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!